So hello and welcome back to the Vedic Oracle channel, and today we're going to talk about the D20 chart, the Vimshamsha chart. So let's get started. Okay, now what is D20 chart? The Vimshamsha chart is the chart which represents your spiritual inclination. It talks about your devotion. It talks about your relationship with the deity, with a particular deity. It shows your connection, the kind of a connection, a bond you share with a particular deity, and how that deity is too connected to you. It talks about your faith in God. It talks about your religious path, your spiritual path. It talks about your mental peace. It shows your meditation. So everything about your mind, everything about your faith, secret of all this, it's present in the D20 chart. So let's not waste time and let's come to the point. Let's talk about the D20 chart.
So, as I said, the D20 chart is seen for the spirituality. It is a chart which shows your spiritual, your religious inclination. Okay, so it holds the clue to the deity whom you are connected to. And on the other hand, it shows the deity who is connected to you. Now, what does this mean? It means that you have, or anyone in this world, will have a mutual relationship with a god. The way you feel connected to the deity, the same way deity is connected to you. If you are affectionate towards a deity, in the same way he also have affection for you. So it talks about the mutual relationship you share with a particular deity. It talks about how you devote your time to God. It talks about your devotion. It talks about how you meditate. It talks about the blessings you get from worshipping. And it talks about the obstacles which come in the path of spirituality. So how to see the D20 chart? How to analyze the D20 chart? The first thing to be done is to see the condition of the first house of the D20 chart. Which planet is sitting in the first house? And to which house does that planet belong to? Like, is it the Lord of 4th house or 5th house, which is sitting in the first house? Then you have to look where the first Lord is sitting. And then you see what kind of planetary aspects do the first house receive. So you need to put all these points, you need to consider all these points to analyze the first house of D20. If you have a good first house, a strong first house, then there are no obstacles in your spiritual path. The person with a strong lagna of D20 is blessed. He is naturally inclined towards God. He is a highly spiritual person. Now the next step is one of the most important step. You have to relate your D20 chart to your D1 chart. You have to look out for what all planets are making a connection between the D20 and the D1 chart. And these planets are the one which are holding the secret of your deity. They hold the secret to your spirituality. So you have to see the first Lord, the 5th Lord, and the 9th Lord of the D1 chart. Identify the 1st, the 5th, and the 9th Lord of the D1 chart and look out for their position in the D20 chart. Where are they sitting? Are they in an enemy sign or a friendly sign? Are they exalted or debilitated? So you have to consider all these factors. And the last but not the least, you have to see the ninth house, the ninth lord from the Karakamsha Lagna. Check out for the ninth lord. Which planet is the ninth lord from the Karakamsha Lagna, and see that planet in the D20 chart. Where is it sitting and what is the condition of that planet? Now the next step. What to look in the D20 chart. As I said, the first house is very important in the D20 chart. We have discussed it earlier also. Now we have to look at the condition of the fifth house, the ninth house, and the 12th house of the D20 chart. We have to look for the planets sitting in these houses and what kind of aspects do these houses receive. The placement of the fifth, the ninth, and the 12th lord, and the position of the Atma Karaka. So the fifth house of the D20 chart talks about the path of your spirituality, the progress of your spirituality. It is the house which indicates the deity you should worship or the deity you worship already. It talks about the wisdom you have, the kind of devotion, the emotions you pour into your prayers. So in all aspects, fifth house is very important. Fifth house indicates the knowledge of the mantras you have. And finally, the 12th house of the D20 chart indicates the salvation, the moksha. It shows the type of meditation you do. It shows the depth of your devotion. Now, if you go through the text given in the Brihad Prachura Hora, there is a list of female deities given according to the odd and even sign and according to the division of the degrees. So there's a list of the ruling deity of the D20 chart, and there's a list of the female deities. So what I feel that it is not relevant to even refer to that chart, because all these deities are actually being appreciated in the Tantrikism. So we don't know how to please those deities, and when we don't know about something, we don't go there, right? So let's make the best of what we know and talk about how practically you can come up to a conclusion in your D20 chart. Okay, so here I am presenting an example so that you can understand it very well. Firstly, D20 is a divisional chart or a Varga chart. Divisional chart is formed by breaking up a single sign and a single house. So don't get confused by looking at Rahu Ketu in the same house. Rahu Ketu can be together in a same house in certain divisional charts. D20 is a breakup of the 8th house. 8th house represents spiritual revelations. That means the communication of you with the God. And that makes 8th house important to see spirituality. Now there are different schools for reading the Varga chart, okay? Different schools of thought. So how I read the chart, I will let you know here. First thing is that it is important to relate the D20 chart to the D1 chart, as well as consider D20 chart as a separate chart. Focus on each house of the D20 chart. And the most important thing is that your birth time should be accurate. If you don't have the accurate birth time, then of course you will land up with the wrong chart and wrong analysis. Now, look at this example. Well, this is a D20 chart of a very close friend of mine. Okay. Now, you can see that the Saturn is in the first house. And also, I have checked this native's D1 chart, where Saturn is the lord of the first house of the D1 chart. So, there is a connection between the D1 and the D20. Saturn is sitting in the first house of the D20 chart, and the Saturn is the first lord of the first house of the D1 chart. So Saturn in this case is a very important planet, and it should be considered to come up to a conclusion. Saturn from the first house gives the 10th aspect to the Venus, which is the lord of the 9th house. So indirectly, 5th house, 9th house and the first house has a strong connection, which shows that this native is highly spiritual. For this native, the deity or the god acts as not only the higher power but also plays the role of a friend, a role of a teacher, as you can see that the 5th lord is connected with the 9th lord. Now Ketu is in the 5th house, which is aspected by the exalted Jupiter, which amplifies the devotion, or you can say it amplifies the bhakti in the native. Ketu is itself a spiritual planet and aspected. So now you can see that Saturn, Venus and Ketu are the planets to be considered to come up to a conclusion. You can refer to the Shadbala also. Whenever you consider some planets, check the Shadbala, which planet is the strongest one. So here I am considering Saturn, Venus and Ketu. Okay. So this native is a big devotee of Lord Venkateshwara, Lord Srinivasa. So if you don't know, let me tell you that Lord Venkateshwara is an incarnation of Lord Vishnu in Kali Yuga. And this form of Lord Vishnu is somehow connected to Saturn. So let's see how he is connected to Saturn. So Lord Vishnu descended on earth as Lord Venkateshwara during the Pitra Paksha. The Pitra Paksha is a time period when people offer prayers and food to their ancestors. This is the time when the sun goes in the Dakshinayan, which means the southern direction. So the southern direction is the direction of darkness, okay, and this direction is associated with the planet Saturn and the god Yama. He is the god of death. So here comes the connection of Saturn to this deity. And also that Lord Vishnu came down to earth because of the humiliation he suffered as sage Brighu kicked his chest by his right foot. So of course the foot and the humiliation is again associated with Saturn. He descended on earth to search for his wife Lakshmi. Lakshmi is represented by Venus. So here comes the role of Venus with Saturn. He lived under an ant hill, and ant hill is also associated with Saturn. It's something which is below the earth, right? And lastly, Lord Vishnu, when came on earth, he took his avatar during the nakshatra of the Shravan. So Shravana nakshatra is again ruled by Capricorn, and Capricorn is related to planet Saturn. So in this chart you can see that Saturn, Venus are ruling the D20. So by this example you can understand that how easy it is to analyze a D20 chart. And in this example you can see that the native is already deeply connected to the deity, but the native has to keep up with the faith. The native should not lose the faith, and if this native continues with his or her devotion, then definitely all kind of malefic influences on the native can be reduced. So
now it's very important to understand the deities, okay? It's very important to relate the deities to a certain planetary energy. Now, every deity is connected to a certain planet in some way. If you say that Ketu is a very important planet in the D1 as well as in the D20, so Ketu alone cannot represent the deity in a D20 chart. If Ketu is associated with Saturn, it's Lord Shiva, it's Lord Bhairava. If Ketu is associated with Jupiter, it will be Lord Ganesha. So you must know the planets and their relationship with a certain god. So that is the real secret, the real trick where you have to work upon and relate the god to a certain planetary energy. And then you have to see the combinations, whatever the combinations are in the D20 chart, and then you have to completely relate to it, and then you can come up with a certain conclusion. So thank you so much for being here. Do subscribe this channel. And if you want me to read your horoscope, you can check the link below. Thank you so much. Stay tuned. Goodbye.